So, hey guys, welcome to another video, and before I roll the video and actually talk about it while showing some gameplay of this build, I want to go over the build very quickly so people don't have to ask in the comments and, you know, that kind of stuff, so you know what I'm playing with. So I'm using staff, dagger and focus, I'm using force on both off sigils, and I'm using air for the dagger, which I'm really happy with, and strength for the staff, which I'm not so happy with, so I'll be changing that out probably. I'm using the vampirism runes. I love those runes, even though sometimes the 6 set pisses me off because I want to heal and suddenly I turn into mist and then someone kills me, so that's kind of that, but I like this set. And I'm using knights, and every guide on the internet ever made will tell you to avoid knights like the plague because it sacrifices power for toughness. But I'm actually very happy with that. I'm happy with being more tanky, you know, instead of being this glass cannon. I like to be more tanky. It throws people off, you know. You have an elementalist, very glassy elementalist, charge you and he goes, explodes all over you with his combo, and then he stands there like, okay, we have a problem, Mr. Necromancer. I did my thing, and you did not die. Why did that happen? I now have to wait for my cooldowns, and I don't really like that. And in the meantime, you kill him, and you're like, fuck you. So yeah, I like to run knights. If you like Zerk, okay, go Zerk, or whatever you want. I just like knights more, because of a lot of toughness, and I just like it. Then it's Spite, which goes with Spiteful Talisman, Chill of Death, and Close to Death. I'm using Blood Magic with Quickening Thirst, Vampiric Presence, and Vampiric Rituals. And then I'm using Soul Reaping with Soul Marks, Vital Persistence, and Death Perceptione. For my utilities, I'm using Consume Conditions, because Consume Conditions is just way too good. I'm using Well of Suffering, Well of Corruption, Well of Darkness, and Plague. And as I've said, I'm using Dagger Focus and a Staff. Now, I should have said this in the beginning, but I kind of forgot. This is a fun build that I'm using. And the reason why I'm using this is because I came back to SPVP after about a year of not playing it. I'm more of a World v World and huge world events kind of guy instead of doing SPVP. But a friend told me about the chest, so I was like, oh, there are rewards now. So, you know, I tried it out. And I wasn't really happy with any of the builds I found on the internet. You know, Condi Monsters, Minion Masters, whatever, Power Necros, Shroud builds. I wasn't really happy with the way they're playing. It felt like they're kind of clunky and they rely on a gimmick quite a bit. So I was like, you know what? This build kind of works for roaming and scouting in World v World. It is really scary for really glassy elementalists and glassy rangers and stuff like that. So it might work in SPVP, and it kind of did. Today I did 10 ranked arenas, and I've won 7 of them, which doesn't really tell you much. But then again, if you have a bad build in your party, like a really bad build, it cripples you a lot because you only have 5 people, so it can't be that bad, right? Now, the way you want to burst with this isn't that difficult. It's actually kind of button mashy, and I screw this up every time because I use the skills way too fast, and sometimes I override some of my casts. But the way I burst, or I would like to burst, is Staff 5, which fears them, and as they're running away, I set up my 3 wells on them with Staff 3, which is 4 combo fields. Then I blast it with Staff 4, I roll forward, which creates a Staff 2 mark from my traits. Then I throw down my own Staff 2 mark, then I swap into Dagger, I use Dagger Focus 4, and then I start auto-attacking and I start focusing more on their boons. So I can remove them. If they pop something like Fury or Quickness, I can remove it with Dagger Focus 5. If they're running around like a nuthead, I jump into Death Shroud and I fear them, so I have slightly more control over them. Alright, here you can see I completely screw it up because I blasted before I set up down my my combo fields. I do this a lot, alright? I'm not a very good SPVP player. But this build is fun, you know? This build is kind of fun, so I wanted to share it with you. Now, there are couple more things I want to talk about with this build. So first of all, you do a hell of a lot of damage because of your traits when you're downed. Today when I was doing my final arena, I was downed, and the mesmer that was trying to stomp me ran away because I was doing way too much damage to him. And I had a ranger run towards me, and it was a very glassy ranger. And, you know, when you're on full health and you're going to stomp someone, you don't really care about the damage they're doing to you. I killed that ranger before he got to me, and I rallied myself off of him. That's the kind of damage you can do. When someone's going full balls to the wall, big dig damage, you can actually kill them. When you're downed, it's actually kind of scary with this build. And this doesn't work all the time. Alright, but when you see someone on the ground and you are full health and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna stomp this dude, you don't really pay much attention to the amount of damage they're doing, right? So I think he was just surprised by the amount of damage I did. So yeah, that was that. Now the second thing is Plague. You don't have to stay in Plague for the full duration. Just because it's an elite skill and it has a very long cooldown, that doesn't mean that, you know, if you're in Plague and you're like, oh, it would be kind of cool to fear someone, but I'm in Plague, you know, and it's such a long cooldown, just pop out of it. Alright, think about it as Death Shroud. You don't really have to stay in Death Shroud until you have 0 life force. You gotta pop in, pop out. Of course, if you're using it as a secondary health bar, you probably want to exhaust the entire thing, but, you know, you can pop out of Plague. It's fine. You know, when you're in Plague, you're actually crippling yourself quite a bit. You can't really do much. Alright, you're this big scary ball of doom and death and plague, but you are kind of limited in what you can do. So if you feel like you need to pop out of Plague, just pop out of Plague. It's fine. And the final thing is Death Shroud. Now, Death Shroud, you usually see necromancers do this. Alright, most necromancers will do this. They'll pop into Death Shroud, even if they're fighting someone one-on-one. They'll pop into Death Shroud, immediately fear someone, Shroud 5 for Torment and Immobilize, and Shroud 4. Shroud 4 is actually pretty bad as far as damage is concerned. It is amazing against mesmers and minion monsters and enemies that have multiple targets, or when you're fighting more dudes. It's good, alright? But if you're fighting someone one-on-one, think about it as additional life force. Alright, don't use it right away, because I see necromancers do this way too much. They're on full life force and they use a skill that replenishes life force and doesn't really do that good of a damage. So just when you're fighting someone one-on-one and you want to do damage, use Shroud 1. Shroud 1 does straight up more damage, and you're getting might from it as well because of your traits. And as I've said with Plague, you can pop in, fear someone, put Torment on them, and pop out. You don't really have to stay there until you have 0 life force. And finally we have Shroud 2, and I like to use Shroud 2 to either catch up to someone, well duh, or when I know that I have Dagger Focus underneath the Death Shroud and I get completely destroyed here. Because I can use Shroud 2 and then pop out of Death Shroud and do a ton of damage with my dagger. And that's pretty much it for this video. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye, and don't forget to have fun, by the way. Most important thing in games, fun.